Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is covering 5 reasons marriage feels hard sometimes and the positive changes you can make.
I read a quote recently. It says, "Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved." That quote is by the inspirational Helen Keller. Now, that might just sound nice, right? But we're not talking about just success in your career. And that's where a lot of people put their motivation. We are talking about your marriage and character. I love this quote because it's not just developed when things are good. Who you are and how you handle challenges shows your true character. Are you someone who kind of backs down and has more of a victim mentality when you face challenges? Or do you have the mindset of, this is actually where we come together and we get better, and I'm going to rise to the occasion and we're going to overcome this as a team? So your character is shown in those hard moments.
And a lot of the times, you might not be that person yet. So going through that challenge is going to build the character that you need, that you came here to earth to be a certain person. It's going to build that character. So I love what you're saying. It is true. It shows your character, but it's also the crucible. It's the opportunity for you to even build character to be the person you're meant to be.
Now, if you're facing a challenging season, which could be a week-long season, right? Maybe it's just been a really hard month, or hopefully it wouldn't go more than a couple months. If it has been going on and on, that's when you really have to seek some support, because you don't want that hard season to last too long. We want you to know, first and foremost, before we go into these reasons and what you can do instead, that you aren't the only one. And it's easy to compare to your neighbor, to someone online, to your friend who you think they have this picture-perfect relationship, when in fact, there can be things happening behind closed doors that you aren't aware of. Maybe they haven't been intimate in weeks. Maybe they just had a really intense argument. When you go to a gathering, like the holiday parties are coming up, and you go, "Oh, how are you two?" They're going to say, "Oh, we're good." And that might be true some of the time, but that doesn't mean they don't have hard times. And so first and foremost, we don't want you to think something's wrong with you, or you're flawed, or you're the only couple ever having these hard times, because you can overcome them and become stronger together.
And I think we've been pretty honest that we've had the hardest overall year in our marriage. And as you've heard us talk about since August, those were the specific months that became really challenging for us. And, we're even being invited to go speak at a marriage retreat. And then the pastor asked me to lead their Sunday service to almost 500 people here this week, actually. And, the message that became really clear to me was from all these conversations we were having about our marriage and having with you, the listener. It's that we go through these trials. We face trials of many kinds, as the Bible puts it, and that's a part of it. It's just a part of it. And the game of life is really a spiritual development. And the spiritual development is building of your character. And that's it, right? That's the main thing. You get to build yourself into the person that can do the things that you then want. And then that person can have the things that you want to have, but not the other way around. So yeah, marriage challenges are a key area for that spiritual development. That's why we love marriage. That's why we love these conversations. And so overall, marriage feeling hard at times. Now, there are certain experiences that you would be having that would lead to you feeling that it's really hard. And then we've identified 5 sort of root causes or situations that then lead to those feelings. But overall, if you are in a marriage and you're experiencing any of these things, one being isolation and that you're alone, you got into a marriage to have a partner for life, like to have your person, to always have someone. And things do happen where you could feel you're alone. You're in a marriage and you're alone. And that is hard.
I'm doing it on my own. It's just me. I'm the one in the game. Or feeling neglect. Feeling like, when was the last time you showed me that you desire me, that you want me? I feel like I'm the only one really doing the work here. Or indifference, where you're just kind of feeling apathy towards each other. You manage life, you're getting things done, you take care of the kids, but you're a little bit indifferent or neutral to each other.
Well, in this case, a lot of people do say indifference is actually one of the worst
Mhm.
things. So yeah, you could be angry at your partner, and that's actually better than indifference. Indifference in
Mm.
this case really being
Kind of numb.
that you're not even caring
Mm.
anymore. You're just indifferent to they do what they want to do. And that's a really, really hard place to be. You feel like you get to the place of this indifference. Resentment. There is also another term out there, contempt. That one
Mhm.
is so strong to
Yeah,
me.
right. You go pretty far to have contempt towards a
Yeah, I mean, I
person.
think resentment is on the road to contempt, and
Mhm.
contempt is pretty far down the road from resentment. But either way, then you have the environment of being like criticized.
Mm.
So these are really the seasons and the experiences that you would be having that have marriage feel really hard sometimes. So then we've identified for ourselves through our conversations,
Our sessions,
conversations with
workshops,
couples,
everything.
workshops, yeah, I mean, messages on Instagram everywhere, that here are 5 of the root causes or situations that definitely lead to these experiences.
So the first one being low love accounts. So you've heard us refer to low love accounts on different episodes. It's also a section of our book. And think about how you each have this kind of invisible account for how loved and connected you feel. Now, we're not talking about like, oh, I know they love me. I know that they do. We're still
Yeah, not an
married.
intellectual thing.
No, we're talking about the feeling of being connected and loved. And that is subjective to every single person. Early on in a relationship, because effort is high, your love account is going to feel high. But then over time, and we actually have this graphic in our book, The Argument Hangover, where we show how effort declines easily over time when you're not paying attention. And so eventually you can start to feel like you're not making those deposits into each other's love account. And when that happens, it leads to what, Aaron?
A few things actually, and the first one is harsh startups. This is a term probably coined by the Gottmans, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that you go from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
You can be having a normal ish conversation, you can just be talking about a subject, and then it gets triggered so quickly
Mm-hmm.
that you have this harsh startup from conversation to escalated conflict.
Right. So it feels as though, like, wait, what just happened here? Why is it that you so quickly can become so angry?
And this makes marriage feel very hard because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what conversation and I don't know what thing I could even say to them, but it's going to just cause this immediate blow up. And that has relationships and marriages feel like I don't even know if I want to bring this up. Like this is so hard. I can't even talk about basically anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one factor related to the low love accounts, that harsh startup. Another is that it can feel as though everything else gets attention and priority from your career, your kids, the house, and then you're giving each other the scraps left over. And that leads to when we are doing sessions with couples, they'll often say in some version or another, like, I don't feel desired by you. Like, I don't feel as though you're kind of pulling me towards you, wanting me, not just physically, but I don't feel like I get any of the real attention. Like you might be physically there, but I don't feel as though I get your presence, your energy, your excitement to be with me. I get the
Hmm.
scraps.
Yeah. And all of that really leads to this cultivated, unfortunately, environment in which you will take things more personally and you will be quicker to criticize because you have this low love account, you have this low feeling of being loved by your partner. And so that's just naturally how you're going to be expressing. You're going to be expressing this, which is one of the answers for the next one, an unmet need that just keeps on going and going. And it creates this environment that does make marriage really hard.
Yeah. So before we go to that second reason, with a positive change you can make related to this, it probably seems obvious, but we'll say it anyway, is to make sure you are adding deposits to each other's love account. Now, we get it. We are in the thick of a quote unquote busy season, like parenting. She's almost a year old. We are busier than ever in our business. We're traveling to speak this weekend. Her birthday party's coming up. Family's coming in town. Like, we get what it's like to feel like there's so many things on your plate. And we still intend and focus on little deposits we can make daily. So that's the thing you can start to do in your partnership to switch that one.
So since I already queued it up, let's move to the second reason here, and it is perpetual unmet needs. Now, there are really two factors to this. There is just not discussing them. So let's talk about that one first.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever the particular reason, and there are multiple reasons, you do not proactively discuss what your needs are with each other. And I think one of the big missteps in marriage is to think that, all right, you got married, you got a good understanding of what they need, you got an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of, let's say, their love languages, for example, right? And it's like, okay, nothing's going to change. Like,
Not
your
5 years
partner's
in,
not
10
going to
years in.
change. Seasons aren't going to change you. You're not going to have new ideas of your vision and your desires and what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And though that sounds like such an obvious thing, like who would do that? That's how we typically operate. We operate like the needs of our partner are not going to change. When really it's going to be changing all the time.
Almost daily.
Especially in a hard season, you're going to come to conclusions of, I did not like how that went. I don't like how our lifestyle currently is, and I really do need some changes here.
Mm-hmm.
So to prevent the unmet needs from really going on for a long period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and you could talk about being assertive then, but you have to be able to proactively discuss, like, hey, where are we at with our needs? What do you feel like has changed for you, Jocelyn, this year? This
Mm-hmm.
is hypothetical. What was something you felt like you needed and wanted in the beginning versus maybe going into the next year, and truly staying up to date with what each other's true needs are and discussing them so that they don't become a tripping hazard later.
I think a big thing with you and I that has set us up for success, even in hard seasons, is we don't expect each other to guess each other's needs. Like, we don't have that
Yeah.
romanticized view. I used to. If you only knew me in past relationships, I totally thought if they really love me, they'll know. Like, they'll just anticipate it. No, we don't have that of each other at all. And we do discuss needs often. Sometimes we check in daily, but definitely weekly, because every week is kind of different, and definitely every season. So you brought up assertiveness.
Mhm.
Assertiveness is your ability to proactively express your feelings and ask for what you need. And so being assertive means you're not waiting till you're already frustrated and resentful, and then you bring it up with charged emotion. It means, I'm feeling a little bit of this thing off. Let me bring it up to my partner in a constructive way so I can set them up for success. That's a big thing we talk about. Also, we have some prompts for that in our book, The Argument Hangover, among other resources that we have.
So bringing these two together, whether it's you do not have the habit of discussing and looking ahead and saying, hey, what are the new needs you now have and how can I really be a part of fulfilling those for you, or being assertive about your own needs, then you only build the environment of resentment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about that. You got into this marriage, and a part of it is that you get needs met. And we're not just talking about physical needs, we're talking about emotional needs. We're talking about
Fun,
significant needs, contribution
financial needs.
financial needs. Like,
Mhm.
it's marriage is really about fulfilling needs.
We aren't selfless in relationships, to be honest. Like, you're just not. You're not going to be selfless. We're in partnerships to get things and give things.
Yeah. I mean,
Just to be honest.
I know there's quotes out there that say marriage needs to move from you getting something out of it to giving. But I love what you said. Like, it's being
both.
honest.
Mhm.
It really is both.
Mhm.
And so marriage will feel very hard and very challenging if you perpetually have your needs going unmet.
So the action there, the positive action you can take, is discuss your needs more frequently. Have that be a normal part of your conversation. And this is kind of a little bonus thing before you go to the next one. Don't see them as conflicting. It may seem like that, like if one of you is like needing maybe some alone time or time to just go exercise and the other person's needing quality time. It's not one or the other. That's a very limited mindset. How do we fulfill both of our needs?
Mm-hmm. So let's do the third one here. And the third really root situation that's going to lead to seasons feeling hard. And we also know that things happen that are really beyond what you anticipated. So there are the external environments that
Circumstances.
make a big difference for things being hard. That's really why our August to September was so hard for us. But the other factor is going to be that there is an imbalance of effort.
Right. So perhaps you feel as though there's one person doing more with certain roles and responsibilities. Maybe it feels like there's been these like unspoken expectations around the house, and it feels like one of you is doing 85% and the other is doing barely 15. That could be a big source of frustration. Or maybe it feels as though you've had this financial goal, but one person is really working on saving and strategizing, and the other person is, totally blowing that off and spending. So it feels like there's an imbalance of effort towards the goal that you're working on. What are some other examples?
Yeah, to link to the first root that we brought up, it is an imbalance of effort in the deposits that are being made.
Mm,
So being thoughtful, expressing love,
affection.
showing affection, your compliments, just
Mhm.
all of your deposits into the love account, if you feel, and even more so if there's an actual big imbalance, you can't
Mhm.
have one partner making, 10 deposits a day and another partner just doing zero for
Yeah.
days and days and weeks on end. So that will lead to a similar feeling of maybe neglect, possible resentment, being passive, starting to check out. And again, this feeling of, well, if they're not going to be putting in the effort, and sometimes that's subjective because maybe you haven't expressed or asserted yourself, it's going to feel like in your own mind and in your own heart, well, I think they put in less. So I'm going to put in less. And then the next week,
Mm.
oh, they didn't pick it up. I'm going to put in less. So all of a sudden, it's like you yourself are putting in like 10%.
Because they are right. A partnership isn't even 50-50, because you're so right with that 50-50 mindset. It's easy to then see they declined a little bit, so you decline a little bit, and it just spirals down. You have to have a mindset of, I'm going to do more than my part. And if you both have that mindset, you're going to contribute to a great partnership. I have to bring up a big piece of this imbalance that we're hearing lately isn't just in effort, responsibilities, actions. It's also in attitude.
Mm,
It's in, I wake up and I try to be more positive and I'm trying to bring fun to our family and just, have an uplifting attitude. And it feels as though you're always a downer, right? Like you might not be saying that to your partner, but it could feel like there's an imbalance in showing up with joy, fun, trying to have the home be a place that you all feel happy.
mm,
And that's, I know, something you and I
mm.
discuss often. I mean, there have been times where we've been honest with each other about, hey, I need, and we would say it in a better way, but I need a little bit of an attitude adjustment from you.
And you can be honest, you said it much more straight to
Did I?
me
How did I say
in
it?
August when we were going through that
Mm-hmm.
really challenging season with the rental property that we now own.
Mm-hmm.
And you acknowledged, I know it's really hard out there, and this is a bad situation that we're in, and you're doing your best. And I really, though, it's been a month, and I really need you to turn the energy and the attitude around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And I hope I said it in still a loving way, but that's where we have the space to be honest with each other. And, that's something I recommend you all pay attention to, is not just the things you're doing for your partnership, but who you are being, right? What is the energy you're bringing to the relationship, to the home? Is it joyful or is it cranky? Are you bringing happiness or are you bringing like just tension and stress? And you've got to do what you need to do to be a happy person. So if you need to start exercising, if you need to see a therapist, you need to start meditating, what do you need to do in order to show up with a better attitude in the partnership?
Hmm. And you can't have it feel for one partner that I carry I don't have a better word right now than the energetic load. It
Mm-hmm.
can't be all on me to manage and monitor the emotional environment in the home. And especially when you have kids. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. I mean, we have one and she's only 1 year old now, but I imagine if you have multiple kids, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of energy, there's a certain emotional state environment that gets created, and one partner cannot be the only one that feels that they have to manage that area of your guys' life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that leads to that feeling of it's kind of all on me
Mm-hmm.
and I'm alone and I'm isolated and my partner's off doing whatever they're going to do. Maybe they work a lot but they come home and they're not responsible for their own energy. And it's like, it's on me. It's on me to
Mm.
create games and happiness and joy and connection. And
Mhm.
you will feel isolated and alone that my partner doesn't step up, and it's all on me.
That's so true. Let's go to the fourth reason that marriage can feel hard sometimes, and that's a lack of repair. Right? So, a lack of repair and that leading to emotional clutter. That's the term we like to use to just describe that invisible junk between you, right? It's like there, kind of either beneath the surface, like right underneath the carpet, or it seems as though it's gone, but as soon as another argument sparks, it gets brought up again. So, repair is a huge part of what we talk about, hence the whole reason we have the book called The Argument Hangover, because it has been shown. We will keep reminding you of this. If we have to say it every episode, we will, for you to really get this. Studies show that a relationship lasting or thriving is not whether there's conflict or even how much conflict. It's whether it gets repaired or not. And so you must, yes, learn how to fight in a healthy way and make sure you are repairing. So, if there's a lack of repair from things like old arguments, you never discussed them, debriefed, and there were things that were hurtful that were said, and so you're kind of there wounded a little bit, or perhaps there hasn't been repair from some broken promises, big or small. It's, there's this underlying feeling of I can't really count on you.
Can't trust you.
Mm-hmm. Or perhaps there wasn't repair from things that were hurtful, either said or done towards each other. So again, when you're not repairing, it doesn't mean it just disappears. Time does not heal all wounds. Sorry to break it to you, but that isn't what does it. Does time help? Of course, it helps dissipate the emotion, but it isn't the end all be all. There has to be a time where you come back together and have a repair conversation.
I just got a great analogy.
Okay, you and your analogies.
Maybe more of a visual. So the first thing we talked about was the love account. And to be honest, as you were talking, I was starting to imagine that if you have a lack of repair, meaning things are not getting fully resolved for you emotionally, I think what that does is it starts to cap your max capacity of your love account. And that means normally it would be from 0 to 10. And you can fill your partner's love account all the way to 10 if you make enough deposits, right? And the effort is balanced, as
Mm-hmm.
we've already talked about. But I honestly believe if you're not actually repairing things, you're stepping over them, or you're just letting emotion dissipate and then move on, I think you cap the highest potential your partner's love account can go.
Because it
So
keeps
maybe
kind of
now it's a
depleting it.
9. Maybe now there's a cap at it being an 8.
Mm.
More things go unrepaired, it's a 7. So what does that mean? You could turn things around in a way and make more deposits, but if you're not repairing things, your partner's only going to get to a 7. They're only going to get to the cap that you've allowed to happen through this lack of repair.
Yeah, and I think that some people have an easier time kind of tolerating and living with a little bit of tension and discomfort. Like, I know there's that thing we haven't talked about, that elephant in the room, but we encourage you not to live that way. Don't live with that clutter building up. So the positive action you can take is together, always make sure you are checking in that things are repaired. After an argument, go through the repair process that we teach, the 5 R's. That's both in our book as well as our repair web class. And we'll link that in the show notes for you to watch that. But make sure you're going to them and saying, hey, is there anything unresolved, from that conversation? Or, hey, I was thinking back to the thing that happened a week ago. Let's make sure we both feel we've worked through that. Like some kind of a check-in to make sure that you're both actually resolved about it, as opposed to just living with some pain.
Mm-hmm. And there really is, there's so much to this.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote a whole book essentially on this. And as you just mentioned, the web class. So we'll leave you to really dive into the book or the web class. And the
Mhm.
web class is onlinecouplesworkshops.com/repair. In the book, you can get anywhere. You can start at theargumenthangover.com and find your favorite retailer. And that's going to be just imperative. There's going to be more than just a podcast note that we can
Right.
make
That's
on
not just a
repair.
quick thing. Mhm.
But 2 last things I wanted to say on repair. What will make this feel even harder is if you as a partner continue down the path of not taking responsibility. If you do not look at where you're responsible for impact that you're making on your partner, and essentially you can have your partner feel that most of the conflicts, they're to blame. And when you get to a place where your partner is feeling like most of it's their fault, you're not repairing, you're not taking any responsibility, you're creating a very, very difficult season for the marriage.
Very true. Okay. Thanks for saying that is good. Now, let's go into the fifth reason that marriage can feel hard sometimes. And this one, we're actually going to do a whole podcast episode on next week because of how important and relevant it is. And that is when there's a lack of acceptance. A lack of acceptance of each other. It feels as though you're constantly wanting each other to slightly change, lots of little feedback. And do you have to do it that way? And is that really it? And hey, why are you doing this? All those little remarks add up
Mm-hmm.
and create this feeling of, I can't be myself.
And I'm just criticized all the
Yeah.
time.
Do you even like me for me?
Mm.
Or do you just like the idea of me? And I know that's kind of like a hard thing to ask, but you have to check in and say, have you been accepting your partner as they are, or are you constantly wishing they were different? Now, we're not saying that you can't have desires for them to shift their attitude, right? Like be more positive and joyful. And that's what we're going to distinguish in next week's episode. But we're just talking about a constant environment of feeling as though you two can't just be yourselves.
Mhm.
That would feel uncomfortable. And you ultimately want to be that safe space for each other. You want to feel as though you lift each other up, not, pull each other down.
And that you actually can make mistakes as a human being
Mhm.
and still be accepted by someone.
That's so good. Yeah. So we're going to cover that more in depth on next week's episode. So make sure you tune into that. But our overall goal from today's episode was for you, number one, to not feel alone. If you encounter hard weeks, hard months, please don't let it last too long. That's a first key. Don't just tolerate and live. And, we talked with one couple, they're actually going to do some coaching with us. They were prioritizing their kids and their other family members who needed them because there were different pieces of urgency and crisis, and they had been neglecting working at the partnership for a very long time. So don't live with this kind of pain or disconnect. Yes, you can get by, but your partnership is supposed to be something that brings joy and happiness and love even through the hardships. So number one, don't let it last too long. And then the other is to identify at least one of these. Which one has been showing up in your partnership from what we've covered? And what are you going to do differently today from the suggestions and the tips that we provided?
I really love everything that you're saying too. And not because I came up with this, but I honestly am really being struck by that visual of capping your love account. Because when you say you can get by, it's like, yeah, you might not even notice the difference between having a love account that's at 10 and 9, right? That's pretty high. Okay, 8, 7, you start to tell that difference. 5, 6, 4, I know I just said those out of order, but at some point, what's the level that you are just okay with, that you can quote unquote get by? Yeah, you could probably get by with a love account at a level 5. But why would you want to?
And for how long?
I just don't want the listeners to get by. I don't want you to be capped in your love account through all of these things that we're bringing up and leaving you feeling like, yeah, I guess this is where I'm at. Even if you're not at the feeling of neglect or indifference, resentment, criticized, you're like, yeah, I guess this is it. No, it doesn't have to be that way. I don't want you to live with a capped love account. Take the lid off, and really get back to the place where you can be at 8s, 9s, and 10s in your love account.
Right. And remember that your character, your true character, is shown in the hard times, not the good ones. And so if you're in a hard moment, this is where you rise up and you say, together, we're going to identify what this is about. We're going to overcome it together. So make sure you have that resilient mindset. We're here for you. Make sure you take advantage of our resources. We mentioned our book at theargumenthangover.com, our web class at onlinecouplesworkshops.com/repair. And make sure you also look at our communication mastery bundle. That is a self-paced online program where you can log in and get exercises and tools to actually change the way you are working together, that you communicate, that you handle conflict. And you're going to love the worksheets that we provide, the step-by-step exercises. So we'll also link that in the show notes because it's a longer URL. So make sure you check that and make sure you take advantage of our resources. We're here for you. Send us a message if this resonated. We love you, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.